When I was in college, my friends and I rented a very nice and beautiful Airbnb for our spring break in Miami. We attended school in New York, but decided we'd give Florida a shot for spring break because who wants to be stuck in New York for vacation? My friend Jenny came from generational wealth, so she had paid for the majority of our trip. The Airbnb we got was this nice two-storied mansion right on the edge of Fisher Island. Fisher Island is an island where all of the wealthy people live, and you couldn't go in without permission. Because we had rented out the Airbnb, we were granted permission for our stay, and we couldn't ask for anything better. The first day there went as planned. We unpacked our stuff and spent the day at the beach with these guys we had just met. Today was the day to basically just settle in and make ourselves comfortable. One of the guys we met was named Steven, who I seemed to connect with very well. He was around my age and had actually lived in Miami. After a while, we exchanged contact info and even mentioned plans about going out for a drink later. My friends, trying to act playful and teasing, starts to make comments about how he was so handsome and how I was so lucky. I told them that it wasn't anything too serious and that I only just met him. Steven and I had planned to meet at a local bar around 8, which wasn't too far from the Airbnb. I had gotten there at 8:10 as my Uber was late, which made me think it was a bad look for my part. However, upon arrival to the bar, Steven was nowhere in sight. Not a huge deal, but he seemed like the type of guy to always arrive early to places. I text Steven telling him I was here, and almost immediately he replies saying that he was 5 minutes away. Now, it wasn't a red flag or anything, but I just really wanted to get inside and have a nice night. 5 minutes turned into 10 and then 20 until he finally arrived to the bar. I was really annoyed at this point, but kept my cool and acted professional. He apologized and said there was traffic and that we should go inside. I gladly agreed, and we went inside where we went to get our drinks. We binged, talked about life and whatnot. Fast forward a few hours later, it was then when I started to realize just how tired I was and told my date that I was gonna drive home. He understood and respected my decision and recommended we see each other once more before I left. I told him that I'd let him know and thanked him for a nice night. Right then, I got back in my car and drove back to the Airbnb just wanting to go to sleep as we were getting up early tomorrow. I fell asleep for a good hour or so when I awoke to a commotion going on outside of the house. It was really loud, you might as well consider it as extreme yelling. I get out of my bed and walk over to the window and see 3 police cars in front of the house. There were several officers placing someone in handcuffs, but I couldn't see who it was. Right then, Jenny storms into my room, freaked out, and asks me if I had anything to do with what was going on outside. I obviously tell her no, and she leads me downstairs where I was greeted by 2 police officers asking me about Steven. My blood ran cold when I heard his name, and I just explained that we had a night out, but that was it. One of the officers informed us that he had attempted to break into the house to target me. At first, I didn't know what he meant by that, but after they told me what they had found in his car, I understood. In his car were several items used for tying things together, such as duct tape, rope, and a knife. When they escorted me outside, I saw 4 or 5 officers holding Steven, who gave me this look I can't even explain. I wish I could accurately describe the look he gave me, I just can't remember. Turns out, he had managed to unlock the door and disable the alarm when he got in. It wasn't until then where someone walking their dog managed to spot him and call the police. Steven refused to tell anyone what he actually planned on doing, but based on the items in his car, I could only imagine that he had the intention of rape or kidnapping. Steven was taken into custody, but it's unknown if he was ever released. The owner of the Airbnb gave us a full refund along with an apology for the inconvenience. However, it didn't make us feel any better knowing we could have been the victims of something horrible happening. When my boyfriend and I were both still in college, we rented out an Airbnb in Las Vegas during the summer. It was a modest 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom house right by the Vegas Strip, making everything in walking distance. This one summer, just wanting to get away from life and away from it all, we booked the Airbnb wanting to have a nice time. The owner was nice, but was very strict on having people over. We assured him we didn't know anyone in Vegas and would honor his wishes. Our third night there, we had just gotten back from the casino after gambling some of our spending money. We've never been to Vegas, so it was okay to gamble at least once. A few hours after we got back to the Airbnb, I was feeling a little ill, so we decided to sleep in separate bedrooms to avoid the spread. However, the bed frame in the other bedroom was broken, so we agreed that I would sleep on the bed while my boyfriend slept on the floor with a simple blanket. I felt bad in the moment, but he didn't mind it though, and we fell asleep shortly after. A few hours go by when I was suddenly awoke to my boyfriend nudging me. He was standing over the bed, trying to wake me up. I take a look at my phone and ask him in an annoyed tone what was so important at 4 a.m. There was a short pause before he said he was hungry and that we should go down to the gas station for a snack. I told him that if he was hungry that he could go himself and to let me sleep. This doesn't satisfy him though. He didn't want to go alone and insisted I go with him. This was weird as I had never seen him act like this before. There was something about his tone that was just off-putting. At least that was my logic. After several attempts of getting me to come with him, I finally obliged and put on my sandals. We walk outside of the house and start heading towards the street when my boyfriend says, "Babe, I'm not actually hungry. I woke up in the middle of the night and looked under your bed. There's someone sleeping there." My heart sank as he said this, and I repeatedly asked him questions to make sure he wasn't playing some sick joke. By some stupid luck, the person didn't see my boyfriend as they were facing the other way. We called the police, and lo and behold, they came out of the Airbnb with a homeless-looking man in handcuffs. However, he didn't try to get away and sort of just let the police arrest him. Looking back, it seemed as if he were wasted or on drugs. We still aren't sure how the man managed to sneak in the house, as the owner claims he had security cameras and would have definitely seen him. This makes us believe that this man had been inside the house for quite some time, even before us. And that's a very scary thing to think. It was the summer of 2016, and my friends and I were taking a road trip down to Miami for Ultra. Ultra is a widely popular music festival around the world that was hosted once a year with many popular celebrities. If you're a big music fan, you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, my friends that I had gone with decided to get an Airbnb to stay in, as that would be the cheaper option than a hotel and was well within our budget. I've heard a lot of bizarre and creepy experiences when renting Airbnbs, but at the time we really didn't think much of it. We'd be at the event for the weekend, which meant that we'd also be renting the Airbnb for the whole time. It wasn't a huge house or anything, just the appropriate size for a group of friends. This had been a weekend we've all been looking forward to for about a year now, so we made the most of it. Fast forward to the day of the festival. We're all partying, having a good time, when I take notice of a man staring intently at my friend. This was common, as it's a large event with many people, so it was no surprise there were creeps. However, my friend didn't feel threatened or uncomfortable. She's had several encounters of people looking at her like this, and she sort of just let it go, as it was normal to her. We all sort of dismiss it as some harmless druggie and continue on with our night. The venue was huge with a lot of people. I'd say about 5,000, and after a night of drinking and dancing, we all had went home. It's around 1 a.m. and we're all starting to go to bed so we could get up early the next day. However, I have always had trouble sleeping throughout my life. I've always had an innate fear of the night ever since I was a child, and for whatever reason, I guess it stuck with me through adulthood. I wasn't so much afraid of what lied in the dark, but rather the dark itself. I always saw it as some silly fear, but this night definitely confirmed my fears. At this point, it's about 2 a.m. and everyone was asleep but me. After constantly rolling around in bed, I finally got some shut-eye when I awoke to my friend shaking me. In my groggy state, I ask her what she wanted when she says,
"Do you not hear that? Someone's walking around outside."
Now, my bed is right beside the back door, and after rubbing my eyes, I finally heard it. Someone was definitely out there, and it sure as hell wasn't any of us. At first, I would have assumed it was the owner of the home just checking on things. However, why would he be doing that in the middle of the night without us knowing? I get up from my bed and peek outside the window only to see no one there. I knew my mind definitely wasn't playing tricks on me, as I know what I heard. As I get out of bed to go see who it was, I then hear the scream of one of my other friends from another room. Upon rushing into her room, I opened the door and was greeted to a man who I could only recognize as the same man from the concert. The minute he saw me, he basically jumped outside the already open window and ran off into the night. Our two male friends had gone after him, but had given up after they couldn't find him. Police were involved, but there was nothing much they could do other than conducting a police report. We had contacted the actual owner of the house, who was thankfully very understanding and refunded our stay. Since we don't live in Miami, we had to end our trip short and head back home, which was an 8-hour drive. This was many years ago, and my friend has since gotten therapy because of this. She's obviously moved on from it now, but she still talks about it with people till this day. I still mourn over the fact that my friend could have been killed that night if she hadn't woken up. I still have no idea as to how that man from the show managed to find us. My only guess was that he simply followed us, but kept his distance while doing so. I've always wondered about what he might have done had I not gone into the room in time. We've never been back to Miami since, and we also don't rent Airbnbs anymore. This world is full of dangerous and evil people who actually want to cause harm to others. If you ever plan on renting Airbnbs, please do so carefully. Make sure all of the doors and windows are locked at night. You never know who might be lurking.